Anyone who studied true crime for any length of time will be familiar with the idea that eyewitness testimony is often mistaken or inaccurate. If there is a sole eyewitness, the concern for investigators and prosecutors will be how reliable and accurate is their recollection of what they saw. But when several witnesses describe the same thing, however unlikely that thing may be, it adds weight to the idea that what they saw was correct. In today's case, witness testimony has a suspect looking unorthodox. But the number of witnesses, as well as CCTV evidence, indicates that what they have seen is correct. So this leaves investigators with the questions of who the witnesses saw and why they looked so odd. This is the desperately sad case of Heather Strube, who was murdered while her toddler was mere yards away in a car seat. And this is Murder of Crows. Heather Strube was a successful florist in Snellville, Georgia in 2009. She was 25 years old and was looking forward to the future with her new boyfriend Michael Vickers and raising her 18-month-old toddler son Carson. The only blot on the landscape was her son's father, Stephen Strube. Heather and Stephen were getting a divorce and were constantly battling for custody of the little boy. It was reported that things between the former couple were extremely strained, and Heather was apparently very fearful of her ex. Such was the fragile relationship that Heather had taken to selecting public locations for the custody transfers that the ongoing legal proceedings necessitated. The location that had come to be the norm for the custody changeover of Carson from one parent to the other, the location that had come to be the norm for the changeover of Carson from one parent to the other was the parking lot of the Target store in Snellville. This made sense since a public location made it less likely that there would be any scene or kicking off of any kind. By April of 2009, Heather had only just built up enough confidence in the ongoing situation that she had only very recently started making the changeovers alone, rather than having someone with her for support. On April the 26th, 2009, there was to be a custody changeover, and Heather and Stephen Strube were due to meet in the Target parking lot as usual, where Carson would be transferred from Stephen's care to Heather's care. By their standards, it was to be a normal custody changeover, with minimal chat between the two, other than anything directly relating to Carson. No drama. And the changeover went completely as intended. Stephen had driven away, and Heather was just strapping little Carson into his car seat when the unthinkable happened. Apropos of nothing, someone approached Heather and shot her directly in the head. She immediately fell to the ground, with her little boy just feet away. In a public location, in broad daylight, the young mother had been executed. With it being a popular location during the daytime, there were no shortage of witnesses to the shocking event. And there was a great deal of commonality between the witness descriptions of the shooter in this event. The shooter was described as a white male, very thin, with a moustache and messy, wiry hair. All witnesses described this attacker as walking away calmly towards the parking area to the rear of the Walmart store. A police composite sketch was very quickly created, which I will show on the screen now. I know exactly what you're thinking. There are only two real possibilities for the identity of this bastard. One is the British national treasure Bobby Ball, who sadly passed away in 2020, and the other is petty criminal Earl Hickey. The issues with these two obvious choices are that in 2009 Bobby Ball was in the UK, and Earl Hickey is in fact a fictional character brought to life by the magnificent Jason Lee. So who on earth could this attacker have been? Many of the witnesses felt that the attacker may have been wearing a disguise, with several witnesses saying the moustache seemed false, and many also saying that the unruly hair seemed like a wig. Witnesses described the shooter as a white male who left on foot, heading towards the back of the Snellville, Georgia shopping centre. One witness told investigators he had a moustache and it looked really, really fake. The most shocking aspect of the murder was the killer's brazen nature, where the perpetrator simply walked, not fled, from the scene after shooting the victim to death in full view of horrified shoppers. It only took a few minutes at a calm pace to walk behind the store and disappear from view behind the buildings. All the while, shaken witnesses must have been saying, "Did I see what I think I did? There he goes and no one's going after him." But understandably, after the initial chaos died down, the police focused on the smaller parking area behind the Target store.
She's laying at the back of the car most of the time. Look at all this woman lying on the ground.
Where in her body did she get shot?
Ronald Reagan, there's like a wooded area, and she walked back there.
In fact, the first major break in the investigation came after the release of the composite sketch, when police were contacted by a trucker who had been staying in the motel near the parking area at the rear of Target, and described seeing a person looking like the sketch the day before the attack in the area behind the Target, hanging around in a white truck. The witness was able to give specific information regarding the truck. An individual with a white pickup truck with distinctive detailing, who was either taking pictures of the shopping centre or was looking at it through binoculars. When they followed up on this truck, it led them to a suspect that was both unsurprising, but at the same time hardly what the police were expecting. The truck was linked to Stephen Strube's mother, Joanna Hayes. Despite her, being female, investigators set about looking into Hayes in terms of what motive she would have to kill the mother of her grandson. The trucker later identified the truck as the one belonging to Joanna Hayes. But when questioned by the police, Hayes produced a receipt from a snack bar miles from the shopping centre in another county as an alibi, and this appeared to be a genuine receipt. But when investigators dug deeper into Hayes' background, they learned that she was determined to remain a daily part of Carson's life. And she knew that her son's divorce could jeopardize that arrangement. One witness testified that someone wearing an afro puff wig ran around the target to the parking lot of a hotel following the crime and drove away in a white pickup truck. Forensics indicated that a wig fibre was found in Hayes' truck. It also didn't help when investigators looked into whether Hayes was familiar with firearms. It would be her ex-husband and Stephen Strube's father, Stephen Strube Sr., that would detail exactly how familiar Joanna Hayes was with guns. Strube Sr. revealed that Hayes would have a .38 caliber Lady Rossi handgun with her at all times, carrying it in her purse or in her waistband, while the murder weapon itself apparently belonged to Stephen Sr. In fact, Hayes had actually pointed her gun at Strube Sr.'s head during an argument. What a good look. Forensic investigation of the truck found, in addition to the wig fibre I mentioned earlier, gunshot residue was found on the dashboard and the steering wheel. At this point, police strategized and decided to apply pressure in order to try to crack the case open. On May the 5th, 2009, they showed Stephen Jr., that is, the tape of the suspect seen at the parking lot. Stephen was visibly shaken when he recognized the person in the video and identified the individual as his own mother.
You're okay with barbershop?
Yeah. You know, it looks like her, doesn't
Yeah.
Doesn't it? Well,
Kenny?
that's right. That's your mom.
God, Kenny.
That's your mom.
But you said she had told me not to. She didn't tell me she got picked up.
That's her. You saw it. You know your own mom.
That could be like that. Kenny.
No, you know.
Oh, crap.
The child was in the car. Less than 5 feet away. And that's your mom walking away.
Well,
She was trying to take care of you.
that's why you gotta take care of me.
Oh my god. That should make my news. Yeah. She's not possible. Stupid. I swear to God, I had to go out there. I am freaking out right now. Oh my god.
That's your mama.
Oh god. Oh my god. Screwed up my son's life's gonna be. His mom's dead. What? That's a mom killer?
Stephen willingly agreed to help investigators by calling his mother to see if she would talk about the shooting.
Mom. Hey.
Hey.
I just left the police station. And they showed me the videotape.
Yeah?
It looks like you.
It looks like me?
Mom, it looks like you. It looks just like you. Walks like you. Why'd you do it?
I didn't do it.
Did you do it? Seriously, do not lie to me.
Stephen, no, I did not.
In a recording of the call, he can be heard saying, "It looks just like you, walks like you." His mother asked him if he'd told authorities the same thing. When he said yes, he had, she said she would expect to be questioned by police. Hayes was interrogated on May the 6th. She stuck to her denials about committing the crime and then walked out. Hayes remained similarly stoic when she was interviewed again on October the 29th, 2009. But nearly 8 months after the crime, Hayes was arrested and charged with murder in December of 2009. After a long delay, the trial began on May the 4th, 2011, and prosecutors had no murder weapon or even the wig that Hayes supposedly wore. They knew their case was circumstantial, and they were ready for an uphill battle. There was one major impediment. Several witnesses described seeing a man and not a woman pull the trigger. But what they did have was recorded footage of Stephen's very visceral and emotional response when he saw the suspect in the surveillance video, and where he immediately identified the shooter as his mother. The snack bar receipt that Hayes produced as an alibi seemed to backfire, because according to investigators, it actually showed that she would have had enough time to commit the murder and get to the fast food location. Prosecutors also had a compelling motive to account for Hayes' homicidal act, that being her grandson Carson, with prosecutors saying she wanted the baby on her terms. And ultimately the jurors were convinced. Hayes was found guilty of murder on May the 27th, 2011. She was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole in 30 years. She appealed the verdict, but the verdict was upheld. Since the murder of Heather Strube, Carson was raised by Heather's parents, Buddy and Mary, until Mary died from surgical complications in 2014. Since then, Buddy raised Carson on his own. And this is the most recent update I could find in a Facebook group dedicated to Heather's memory.
Heather was kind. She was compassionate. She was humble. She would give you everything she had and often did. She would give you the last dollar she had, not knowing how she was going to put gas in her car or whatever, but she wouldn't tell you that and would just give it to you.
She just had a spirit about her that you just, I'd say you fell in love with. I mean, I fell in love with, of course, but just how she treated people, how she approached people, how she could read people, and know the right thing to say at the right time.
Heather was the type of person that would make you feel like you could tell her anything, no matter what it was, and she would listen. You could just see the care in her eyes. She just had this certain glow about her, and the thing that I remember most about her was that, you know, with both of us, she was always positive, always looked at the other side of the paper and said, look, it's better over here, you know, and that was one thing I never could do myself until I met her.
We met because of, professions. She was a florist. I worked on wedding cakes. And so our paths crossed originally because of that. My fondest memory of that is a weekend, I'm not sure how, I had just overbooked. And I had, I think, 5 cakes going out. And she came over. She called me. She's like, I'm coming over. Okay. And she's like, I've got this.
But you needed extra icing, you said.
I did need extra icing. 1 for the cake, 1 for Heather. That was the day that I learned I needed more. So I had to make another batch. So from that point on, whenever she was coming over for cakes, I made an extra batch.
So baking time is a happy memory for you?
Every memory was a happy memory with her.
When do you miss Heather the most?
When something happens and I see her in the moment, like it's a little child getting excited about something, or it's a young lady who's just done a big accomplishment, and the smile that she has on her face looks like Heather. Or when Carson says something or does something that reminds me of her. I miss her smile, I miss her hugs, I miss her presence. Because I knew her heart and how pure it was, and how pure of and loving person that she was, and just wishing more people were like that.
And that was the really peculiar case of Heather Strube. This much-loved mother, daughter, and friend was gunned down seemingly due to jealousy and a woman's possessiveness over her grandson. She disguised herself as a man to try to trick witnesses and authorities. But thankfully she did a piss-poor job of it, meaning she stood out even more as a result. It seemed that Carson's dad, Stephen, had no involvement in the fiendish plot. But I think it fair to say that Carson seemed to be better off with the love and support of Heather's parents, and Buddy has continued to do an incredible job of raising the young man that lost his mother in the most callous and brutal of ways. This video is, of course, dedicated to Heather Strube, a woman who was trying to make a fresh start after the collapse of her marriage. She was a talented florist and a wonderful mother, and her death was a senseless tragedy. I hope she is at peace alongside her mother Mary, and one day will be reunited with Buddy and Carson eternally. Thank you for watching another episode of Murder of Crows. The first 30 or so episodes are now available as podcasts on most podcast platforms. I'm also releasing some of my episode intros as YouTube shorts, Facebook reels and TikToks. Get me down with the kids. So any help in getting all of this out there and shared and supported in any way would be most gratefully received. But with all of that said, I'm Steve. Samson is off looking out the window because he's confused at why it's so windy. Are you coming to say anything? Are you coming to say farewell to the wonderful, wonderful people? Yes? No? Maybe? You coming? Hello. I'm Steve. This is Samson back from his nomadic wanderings around the flat. And we will see you when we see you.